She loved deeply. That was her biggest flaw, and her most beautiful strength. She gave love, like a river that never dries, like a mother who forgives before the apology arrives, like a woman who believes that gentleness can heal even the wounds no one sees. And yet the world kept taking from her her laughter, her sleep, her trust, her youth, piece by piece, day by day, until her reflection in the mirror became a stranger who looked older than her age, but the light in her eyes that refused to die, because her heart still remembered love more than it remembered hurt. Every morning, when she touched the wrinkles on her face, she wasn't counting years. She was counting stories. Stories of nights she didn't break. Stories of days she didn't give up. Stories of moments where she stood against storms that were meant to destroy her, yet failed. She had lost much, but she never lost her softness. She had carried pain, but never let it turn her cruel. She had been betrayed, but she kept loyalty alive inside her chest, like a candle that refused to extinguish, even when her voice faded into quiet sighs, and her steps slowed. With age and exhaustion, her heart still held the bravery of a girl who once dreamed fearlessly. People would often ask her, "What kept you alive? After everything you went through?" She would smile a tired smile, one that carried lifetimes of meaning, and answer softly, "My God knows my pain. He carries what I cannot." And it was true. Every unseen tear, every unspoken heartbreak, every midnight prayer, she handed them to heaven, like a child handing broken toys to a father they trust completely. She walked through life with a quiet dignity that no suffering could steal, because she understood something the world never learned, that the strongest people are not the ones who roar, but the ones who continue loving, even with broken hearts. She still looked fragile, delicate like a flower that could be bruised by a harsh touch, but inside her bloomed a strength so fierce that mountains would bow if they knew the storm she had endured without a single complaint. And though her dreams were shattered, though her hope had cracked more times than she could count, her love never lost its color. It stayed bright, warm, faithful, the last piece of her soul that time could not fade, because love for her was not a memory, not a feeling, not a story. It was a promise she made to herself and to God, to remain gentle, even when the world gave her every reason to turn cold. And in the end, that was her greatest victory. She never became like the pain. She survived. There were days when she sat by the window, as if the outside world were a memory she was trying to remember, but couldn't fully touch. The sunlight would fall softly on her face, yet her eyes carried shadows that light had never been able to chase away. She didn't speak much anymore, not because she had nothing to say, but because her heart had grown tired of explaining pain to people who only understood laughter. Silence became her language, and loneliness became her companion. But even in that loneliness, she carried herself with dignity that refused to collapse, even when her soul wanted to fall apart. Sometimes her hands trembled, as if touching memories she wished she could forget, memories of nights when her tears kept her awake, of days when she walked through the world smiling, even though everything inside her was breaking quietly. The world forgot her, but she never forgot the world. She remembered every face that once laughed with her, every voice that once called her name, with warmth now long gone, every promise that walked away leaving only echoes behind. She often revisited the past, not to relive it, but to gather the pieces of herself she had lost along the way. She remembered being young, when her hair was dark like nightfall, and her dreams were bright, like the first star of evening. She remembered running barefoot, laughter spilling from her lips, like innocence that believed life would always be kind. But life was not kind. Not to her. Not to the girl she used to be. Still, she refused to let life win. She fought its cruelty, with kindness, with faith, with a heart that kept healing others, even when no one healed her. Sometimes she would hold her own hands, as if comforting a child that still lived inside her, a child who never stopped wishing for a mother's lap that wasn't tired, for love that didn't leave, for safety that didn't disappear when she needed it most. Age sat upon her shoulders like a gentle weight, yet her soul remained restless, like a bird that wanted to fly, even though its wings had been broken too many times to count. Her steps grew slower, but her heart kept walking toward hope with a determination that could move mountains. If mountains understood heartbreak, she lived in a world that measured her life by wrinkles, by years, by how slowly she moved. But she measured her life by how softly she had loved, by how bravely she had endured, by how quietly she had survived. People praised her strength, but they never knew that strength was not a choice for her. It was the only way she could breathe. If she let herself fall apart, she feared she might never find the pieces again. There were nights when she pressed her hand against her chest, as if trying to hold her heart in place, whispering prayers that were older than her age, prayers shaped by longing, by exhaustion, by a faith that had been her lifeline through every storm. She often wondered why her memories still hurt, even after 60 long years. Why pain does not age the way bodies do. Why heartbreak remains young and sharp and alive, even when time claims everything else. But somewhere deep inside her, she knew the answer. Pain stays, because love once lived there, and love leaves traces that time can never erase. She carried those traces like sacred secrets, not because she wanted to, but because they were the last proof that she had once cared, once trusted, once believed in a future that had never arrived. Yet she remained kind, gentle, warm, because she refused to let the world steal the softness her heart was born with. Even now, when the world saw her as just an old woman, her soul still glowed with the beauty of everything she had survived. Her loneliness did not make her bitter. Her aging did not make her cold. Her suffering did not make her cruel. Instead, it made her pure, a rare kind of soul, polished by sorrow, softened by patience, strengthened by faith. And when she breathed stories that could make the heavens listen. When she walked with quiet royalty, a queen crowned not by gold, but by endurance. And when she looked at the world, her eyes carried a softness that could heal wounds, even if her own remained unhealed. She was 60 years old, yet her heart still remembered every pain, not to suffer, but to honor the journey that made her who she had become. And in that remembrance, there was no weakness, only truth, only courage, only the echo of a life lived with love, even when love was not returned. At 60, she no longer raced the world. She let the world pass her slowly, the way rivers pass old stones, touching them, remembering them, never asking them to move again. Her body had learned fatigue, but her heart never learned surrender. It still beat with the same loyalty. It had carried through decades of waiting, hoping, and forgiving without being asked. She had learned that pain does not fade with age. It only learns how to sit quietly, how to breathe softly, how to exist without asking permission. It becomes a companion, not welcome, but familiar. She no longer asked why things happened the way they did. She no longer chased answers that never came. Time had taught her that some wounds are not meant to close. They are meant to shape us. Her heart remembered everything. The first time she trusted. The first time she was left behind. The promises that felt eternal and vanished overnight. The love she gave that returned as silence. And still, she loved, not with desperation, not with expectation, but with a calm, steady devotion that felt almost sacred. She loved like someone who had nothing left to lose, except her kindness. Her laughter came less often now, but when it did, it sounded honest, free of performance, free of pretending. It came from a place that had survived too much to lie anymore. She spoke gently, as if every word mattered, as if she knew how easily words can wound, how permanently they can stay. Her silence, too, was filled with meaning. She had outlived many dreams, buried a few hopes, watched time take faces she once held close. Yet she remained standing, not tall, but rooted. Rooted in faith, rooted in patience, rooted in a love that refused to harden, even when life gave her every reason to do so. She no longer feared loneliness. She had made peace with it. Loneliness had taught her how to sit with herself, how to listen to her own heart, how to find God in the quietest corners of existence. She prayed without asking for miracles. She prayed for understanding, for strength to carry memories without letting them crush her, for softness to remain even when the world rewarded cruelty. And God listened, not by removing her pain, but by teaching her how to carry it with grace. Her heart, still tender, still bruised, still alive, remembered every pain, not as a curse, but as proof that she had loved deeply in a world that often loves carelessly. She was 60 years old, but inside her lived every age she had ever been. The girl who dreamed, the woman who endured, the soul that never stopped believing that love, even when it hurts, is still worth choosing. And when her time comes to leave this world quietly, she will not leave behind wealth, or fame, or stories written in books. She will leave behind something greater, the invisible warmth she placed in hearts, without ever asking to be remembered, the prayers she whispered for others before herself, the example of a life that suffered, yet remained gentle. She breathed pain. She carried memories. She aged. She slowed. But she never stopped loving. And that is how the strongest souls leave their mark. If her story touched your heart, leave a comment and share which lines stayed with you. Your words keep her strength alive.